Hello again, Miss St. Germain here. Today's video is about writing. So sorry, it's been a minute. We are really juggling 3 kids schooling, and my husband and I are both teaching online. So it's been a lot. So I haven't had as much time as I thought I would to be able to do these videos. But today we are talking about writing. If you have ever magnet toured over at my school, you've heard me give this spiel, a little bit part of this spiel about writing. So I'm going to start with what I say to all of the groups of parents who I talk to about writing. And it's that writing informs the reading. So kids can read words that they cannot write. But if they can write the word, they can absolutely read that word. So it's kind of reading and writing, all of it is kind of happening together. And that makes it really hard and complicated to be able to just like break pieces down. And it's weird to think that this kid isn't reading, but we're asking them to write. It's okay. The process for writing is much harder for the brain. For the brain to hear a word, right? So like if I'm thinking cat, it's a lot less work for my brain to look at C-A-T and say at cat than it is for my brain to say at and then read the word cat. It's a lot more muscle, it's just a lot more signals, it's just a lot harder to write. But we teach it and practice at the same time because if your child can write a word, they're applying that skill, and that means they can read it really, really well. Really strong writers make really strong readers, which is why at our school and in my class, we focus a lot on writing because it is such an important part of making a really great reader. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to start with some different things just to kind of give you just an understanding of what is expected in kindergarten and writing. Or what your early developing writer will look like. So there's lots of stages of writing. I'm not going to go into all of the stages of writing. Your kid, I have my whiteboard here because this is a very visual thing. So some kids who are in a really, really early stage of writing are just like, they're just making like squiggles. Totally okay. And then there'll be like a picture. And they'll be like, it says, I like my dress. And you're like, cool, great, love it. That's just a really early stage of writing. Super okay, super appropriate. Then it's developmental, also kind of like reading. It kind of goes through these phases. Then you'll start seeing them do things like where they're just writing the first sound of a word. So it'll be like, I love pancakes. And then I'll have a picture of like a pancake. And you're like, what is that? And then they'll be like, it says, I love pancakes. And you're like, oh, totally see that it says, I love pancakes. This is great. This is great. I'm super happy with this. It's just another kind of the next step of writing. Then usually you'll see things like them stringing everything together. So like they're getting more of the sounds in, but it's just like one giant long word. So it'll be like, I love pancakes. It'll look like that. Okay, so what I usually find is that the vowels kind of come last. They mix the same ones in reading that they mix up in reading, they mix up in writing. It's the A and the E and the I. They really struggle with those. U and O will flip sometimes. This is okay. This is totally okay. This is just part of writing. So what we want them to do, right, is eventually to write I, a space, lowercase, we talked about this in reading, love, pancakes, right? And then put a period at the end. This is what we're going for, okay? It doesn't just happen right away, and that's super, super okay. It is possible my husband is going to jump on a Zoom call here, and you might hear him. He'll be saying hi to kids. So, okay, this is what we're going for. This is really hard. This is super hard. So to get here, I want you to know that inventive spelling is super okay. Inventive spelling, for those of you who are not like in education and know or have a kid this age or don't have a kid this age yet, inventive spelling means they're hearing the sound and writing it down phonetically. Super cool. Okay, so they might, like a ton of kids, ice cream is so hard. It's a word that just is these are words that are really difficult to write. So a lot of ice cream looks like I see ice cream written like this all the time, or with an E. They'll get it with an E. That's how ice cream looks. They feel like it's one word. They don't realize that it's ICECREAM. Okay? When they're starting to write, when they're going through those writing stages, when they're finally putting the sounds and the words together, it's super okay for them to invent a spell. I highly encourage inventive spelling because it is giving, like, they're applying those letter sound relationships in their writing, which is fantastic. So when a kid brings to me ice cream, when a kid, like, one thing that I do in my classroom every day is journal. It's so important. It's how we start every single day. I usually have a sentence starter, or I might have, like, as they're coming in, I'll be like, if we've talked about George Washington yesterday, I might have George Washington written on the board and then say, just write me anything you want about George Washington. We have Free Write Friday every single Friday, but that is how my kids start their day, no matter what stage of writing they're in. Like, no matter what, whether it looks already perfectly beautiful or whether it looks like scribble scratches across the page in a picture, every day we start and we practice, and every day I sit with the kids and we go through their writing. This is an everyday thing. It's a really important part of them becoming a good reader. So when a kid brings to me and it says, I love ice cream, what I do with them, or maybe they don't have a period, I'll say, oh my goodness, can you read this to me? And they'll say, I love ice cream. And it'll be a little picture of ice cream. And I'll say, oh, I love this. Did you know that love is Love? Isn't that weird? That's how you spell love. And did you know ice cream is 2 words? So it's actually ICECREAM. Can you see that? Ice cream. Huh? And then let's not forget to put a period, because that's the end of our sentence. And then I say, oh my goodness, I love how your picture matches your sentence. Go start whatever's next. So this is something that I'm teaching and I'm doing a lot in Morning Message, or a lot when we're doing shared writing together, or in my classroom. This is what I'm doing. But for you guys at home, I just want you to know that this process it's totally okay to correct it and not expect them to get it right now. They're not ready to get it right now. That's okay. It's okay for them to look like this. It's okay for it to look like one line for a long time. That's super okay. Okay. Developing at the same time. Thank you for being patient with me with my notes over here. All right, one thing that we're looking for in as their writing is developing is I'm looking for, even my kids that are just stringing letters together, I'm looking for a capital letter at the beginning of the sentence. I'm looking for punctuation at the end. Typically, it'll be a period. As the year progresses, we'll add in exclamation marks and question marks. And the biggest one that is really hard for them to move from that string of letters to like a sentence with spaces is putting those spaces between the words. Here's the thing about putting spaces between words. They have to understand, and this takes a lot of practice, they have to understand that, and we talked about this some in the reading videos, that the words that we're saying, like the things that we're saying when I tell you a whole thought, I love ice cream, it's not just one sound, it's not just one thing, and that each of those words, like I love ice cream, each of those is a different word. So we do a lot of full body practice, like I'll say a sentence, I'll say a sentence, and then I'll have each kid like hold a piece of paper for that sentence. And then, so it'll be like and then somebody else is holding dog is brown. And I want them to see that, like, I say this one thing, but it's each individual word is making a sentence, which is a complete thought, and that we have to put spaces between the words so that we can understand that this isn't all one word. This process goes for a long time. So it's super okay for your kid to string letters together or words together for a long time. Like I have kids that are still working on this concept. First graders work on this concept. It's hard. So when you're at home, with writing, I like to meet them where they are. Where are you right now? Are you able to put spaces? If they're consistently doing capitals and periods, fantastic. Praise it every time. If they're not doing Yeah, he's on Zoom. If they're not doing capitals and periods, make it a capital, put a punctuation mark at the end. Um, okay, one thing that I do to help with spacing is one of my teammates gives them like seasonal popsicle sticks to help, like when you write a word, put a popsicle stick, write another word, put a popsicle stick. We tell them it's an A-B pattern. Um, I just tell my kids to use their finger. Write a word, put your finger. Write a word, put your finger. I think that's the biggest thing. I like meet them where they are. Know that writing is really hard. I Kids that are really great readers, I push them really hard in writing because if their writing is really great, they're going to be even greater readers. Kids that are struggling in reading, we push really hard in writing because if their writing is good, it's applying those skills. So I think that's what I'm going to say about writing. I don't think that I missed anything. There's one more, the writing process. So we introduced this in kindergarten, and it's something that we work through. I work through it a lot, whole group, and then like give it to them and help them be independent at the writing process. So you'll hear this at your schools probably. The writing process it's just the writing process, and it starts with pre-writing. That means like generating ideas. That's when we're doing like we're talking about a topic, we're making a list of all the things that we know about that, or we're doing word webs, like generating ideas. Then you're drafting. So it's just like you're writing down what you're pulling the information from your generated ideas and brainstorming sessions and putting it on paper. Then you're revising, which means you're taking what you've written and you're making it better. You're going, I don't need that, or I could add this detail. And then editing, which is where you're going in and going, do I have capitals? Is my spacing really good? What kind of punctuation do I need? Am I missing? What's a word that's misspelled? Do I have that word on my word wall? Can I spell it over here? And then the last one is publishing, which is putting that like making it a nice neat copy. In some schools they do things like writing showcases, or they'll publish their stuff in a book, or publishing can look a lot of different ways, but it's that final draft. So it's so important for us to introduce this process because they're going to be doing this as like we introduce it, and then they're going to be really using this process all the way through 13 more years of school, 12 more years of school. So that is another piece of writing. I would say for you guys at home with your little baby kiddos, don't stress about the writing process. I want them hearing the sounds and writing them down. Capitalization, spaces between words, periods at the end of sentences. If they're not ready for any of that, meet them where they are. Have them read their work back to you. Share their work with a sibling. You're doing great. I know that this is really hard. It is really hard for us, and my husband and I both have degrees in education. So I hope that these videos are helpful. Hang in there. Hang in there.